Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I've said on this platform that Zimbabwe is a failed state. It is. And one of the reasons why we are stuck is that sometimes we want to see what we want to see instead of seeing what is really there. In his so-called Agenda 2026 Fresh Start speech, Chamisa talked about the diaspora and how they would contribute to transforming the country. In reality, that diaspora has been a problem in contributing to the nation's stagnation, in the sense that the people in the diaspora, and many of them, I believe, have supported the opposition to the halt. They have never wanted to hold the opposition to account. Why do I say that they've contributed to the nation's stagnation? Is, as I've explained before, the MDC-CCC have been elected for one primary purpose: to implement the democratic reforms to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. That has been the paramount purpose why people have risked their lives, their livelihoods, and some have even died voting for the opposition MDC or CCC leaders into power. And they've been on the political stage for the last 25 years. And yet ZANU-PF continues to rig the elections. And the people in the diaspora, many of them with at least 11 years of formal education plus. Some of them have even university qualifications, professionals in their own right. And yet they failed to hold the opposition to account these last 25 years. They failed to ask the pertinent question, why have you failed to implement the democratic reforms to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship? Instead, they've become a conduit for financing the opposition and keeping it in power. Let's just listen to an extract of Chamisa's speech, particularly the bit talking about the diaspora.
For Zimbabweans in the diaspora, life has not been easy. The struggle is real. Men who have left our country continue to suffer and wallow in abject poverty. The immigration issues affecting the world, and Zimbabweans in particular, are numerous. The harassment, the embarrassment, the humiliation that we have to endure is despicable. Some are locked up in unlawful detentions. Concurrently, we've also seen the resilience of the citizens of Zimbabwe that remains unbroken. From our towns to our villages, in our factories, our industries, the diaspora, and at home, the call is clear. Change must happen, and change must kick in. Zimbabwe must reset. Zimbabwe needs a fresh start. This is the moment, a moment for a fresh start, a new beginning that is anchored on transformation, unity, hope, and purposeful action.
I'll stop it right there. Ben, you've heard that speech. What's your view?
I've had so many speeches like this before. And for me, it's nothing new, really. This is a motivational speech You know, this is a speech to try and get people back onto the, you know, onto the train, you know, after having lied. You know, one thing we have to realize is that people out there are desperate for change. And it is in our desperation that we make some very irrational decisions where we are prone for manipulation and we accept anything that will just get us out of the current situation. And that just gets us more and more bogged down in despair and confusion. And the guys like Chamisa, you know, ZANU PF, they realize that the people are desperate. All you just got to do is to throw in a bone and they will scramble for it. All this here is just manipulation. I mean, look, the guy promised so much for the past, you know, 8 or 9 years, and he has delivered absolutely nothing. In fact, he ran away from accountability so that he wouldn't ask to say, hey, but hold on. You said, if we are willing to accept where somebody can just come to us and blatantly lie and get away with it, then surely there's a problem with us now. We are far much worse off than what we were, because now we have a national crisis where even the people themselves do not know how to get themselves out of the mess, which to me is turning into a very, very dangerous cycle. Because for 25 years, we've been doing the same thing, participating in rigged elections. The opposition comes and tells us that, no, don't worry, it's this time. It's this time. And we go along with it. But knowing fully well that ZANU-PF rigs election and gets away with it, and that our participation gives legitimacy to their reign, we have a serious problem here.
Yeah, I think my main take on this one is that if you look at the number of people in the diaspora, some say there are as many as 3 million Zimbabweans in the diaspora in South Africa alone. All over the world, maybe another 2 million. And most of these people, they have supported the opposition all these years. There's no doubt about it. If you look at the social media, most of those people on the social media, active on the social media, are in the diaspora. I'll be the first one to applaud them for their contribution in keeping many of Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe alive, helping with the education of so many. That is important, and that must be praised. But I think the Zimbabweans in the diaspora have got to be honest as well with themselves and ask themselves the pertinent question: have they also played into this Chamisa Chete mantra too much, i.e., failing to hold Chamisa and his fellow opposition leaders to account. One of the most annoying things I have found the last 2 years is the refusal by some people to accept that Chamisa lied when he said he had plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes to con people to participate in flawed elections. I've been disappointed by Zimbabweans in the diaspora. We have pretended not to see it. What would it take you to open your eyes to see that reality? We cannot talk of we want a democratic Zimbabwe, and yet we fail to hold those in public office to account. And in this particular case, failing to hold the opposition to account for protracting this, helping ZANU-PF stay in power all these years. It is a historic fact that by failing to implement reforms, the opposition have helped ZANU-PF stay in power. The question then is, why is it that the people in the diaspora have not only turned a blind eye to that political reality, but they have themselves been promoting it by sweeping the reality of opposition betrayal under the carpet. This particular picture is from an article from Change Radio. We have taken up that theme from Chamisa's speech about the people in the diaspora. They should play a role. I totally agree. People in the diaspora should play a role, but we should play a constructive role and abandon this myopic attitude of believing that whatever the opposition leaders say is beyond question. That has undermined the chances of Zimbabwe becoming a healthy and functioning democracy.
You know, it is unfortunate that those that want to hold leaders into, you know, accountability for their actions and their proclamations are finding themselves, you know, being hammered and being labeled from both political divides. We know ZANU-PF, whenever you question, they say you're a puppet from the West. And it would have been understandable. But then you go to the opposition and then you question what Chamisa is saying and what he is doing. And you are labeled, you are Varakash, you are ZANU-PF, you are on the payroll. Which leaves very little room for anybody to question anything. So at the end of the day, we are saying our leaders are untouchable, both ZANU-PF and Triple C or Chamisa. Democracy cannot work under such conditions where you are suffering from the Mozambique syndrome. You are suffering from, you know, it will never work. So in as much as we stand and say we want a democratic Zimbabwe, we're only playing, you know, if we cannot do the essential. We are only just playing. And for me, it actually bothers me because it becomes very, very difficult for us to get out of this mess, because all doors are locked from the high up table right to the bottom where the people are. And the people are, you know, they're only perpetuating their own suffering. This is where we are at. And you find that this is why even the international community has said, no, 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 these are pigs. Let them wallow in the mud. That is what they enjoy. And there's no more help at the current moment. Because we have refused at each and every turn. We have refused and said our leaders know best. The animal farm. That book describes Zimbabwe to the T. We're in serious trouble as long as Zimbabweans continue to defend this madness that we are in. We are in serious, serious trouble.
I think Zimbabweans in the diaspora have now to start asking the pertinent questions and play the constructive role as I suggested there. Let's go back to elections. How many Zimbabweans in the diaspora do not know that ZANU-PF has been rigging the elections? How many Zimbabweans in the diaspora have accepted Chamisa's nonsensical, idiotic lie that he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes? That's when you begin to realize there is something wrong. The people in the diaspora, like I said, most of them have got 11 years of formal education. In other words, they've done O levels. And many of them have university qualifications. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that ZANU-PF has been rigging the elections. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that Chamisa was lying when he said he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes. And yet to ask yourself how many Zimbabweans in the diaspora agreed with Chamisa and were campaigning hard to get people to participate in the flawed elections. We know that some of them were on the social media threatening their relatives. If you do not go out and vote, we'll stop sending you money. They were desperate to get those people to participate in a flawed electoral process. At the end of the day after the voting was done, Chamisa turned around and said the elections were rigged. So he is now admitting that the elections were rigged. And yet he is the one who had been saying ED had no room for rigging the elections. And they, forget the people in the rural areas, the people in the diaspora believed that lie. This is why I'm saying we are looking at a situation here where the people in the diaspora, I believe they've got a very important role to play. But at the present moment, up to now, most of them have not played a useful role that they should be playing. They have enabled the Chamisa Chete brigade to get away with murder. We cannot complain of disputed elections, and yet time and time again participate in them. I really would like to see Zimbabweans in the diaspora play a more constructive role than they have played so far. In this picture, it's produced by Change Radio. It has got the sign there, as you can see, welcome to Zimbabwe. And yet, those people are leaving Zimbabwe. As usual, Change Radio tend to mix things up. Change Radio has been well known for praising Chamisa. Indeed, Change Radio has been the one that has coined the phrase Change Champion in Chief, referring to Chamisa. And yet, they've been called upon to name one democratic change that Chamisa has delivered, and they failed to do so because there's none. This picture is depicting the correct thing. Millions of Zimbabweans have left the country either as economic refugees and or political refugees. And I agree that the living situations for those people in the diaspora, Zimbabweans in the diaspora, has not been easy. And many of us would want to go back home. And even those who do not particularly wish to go back, they still would like to see Zimbabwe gain its lawful position as a functioning democratic nation. We want the millions of Zimbabwe still in Zimbabwe to have meaningful change, to enjoy a meaningful life. Millions are living right now in abject poverty. And we in the diaspora can play a constructive role in bringing about that change. But I think that change has got to start with people in the diaspora accepting that the opposition, the MDC-CCC opposition leaders, have betrayed the country. And those people stopping propping people like Chamisa, treating them as if they are demigods who can do no wrong, instead holding them to account. This has been lacking in many of those people in the diaspora. This is welcome to Zimbabwe, and yet we are looking at people, they're leaving Zimbabwe. The people in Zimbabwe should see the reality and not what they want to see. Zimbabwe cannot afford to let the present economic and political situation continue the way it is. We need change, real change, not the kind of change that Chamisa is promising here. Chamisa, with his fresh start, is promising to participate in 2028 elections, knowing fully well that no meaningful reforms have been implemented, knowing fully well that ZANU-PF will rig those elections. And yet he will want to promise that this time the opposition would win. I would like to see the people in the diaspora play their role, constructive role this time, and hold Chamisa to account. Thank you very much.
Human beings are creatures of reason. And what is surprising, especially about Zimbabweans, is that it's not the lack of evidence that suggests that this is manipulation and that MDC-CCC is now ZANU-PF in all but name. The evidence is there, but I don't know, maybe we have been brainwashed to an extent where whatever they say is what we run with. So we have given up our own free will in support of what the leaders are saying, no matter how foolish and absurd it is. And once we get to that stage, I mean, look, Zimbabwe is a failed state. What did we expect? When the people, and you are right to mention those that are in the diaspora, you know, they are supposed to be the learned group. Now, if the learned group is conned each and every time by the likes of Chamisa and you know, his counterpart, Emerson Mnangagwa, if we are conned by that level, what hope have the guys in the rural areas got? The likes of, you know, the Sapatina guys. We are in serious trouble. And we cannot then stand on the podium and say we want democracy, when we cannot ourselves lay the foundation for it. You cannot just get democracy when there ain't no foundation for it. You have to work towards. And then when you're working towards, when you're there, then you maintain. It's a process. And that process needs each and every one of us to think. Chamisa came, he told us that even the high heavens have declared that he would win. And then when he didn't win, he ran away. Now he's back, and we're still, there's the likes of Change Radio, they call him Change Champion. The champion that ran away. The champion that has not changed anything. But where are we getting this from? I think we need to start asking the important questions. And I think we need to ask ourselves first before we ask the other person. Otherwise, we will be here for a very, very long time. And sadly, this is the truth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you very much for those of you who were able to listen to join us tonight. Just like to remind you again that we'll be on this platform at 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time during the week. And during the weekend, we will be on the same platform. And this time we are inviting you to join us on the platform and use the link that is at the bottom of the screen there. The link does not change. We use the same link every week. Have a good night.